If we were to distill the essence of his wisdom in a few lines, it would be just this: up and down, good and bad, sacred and profane, these are all assumed. But inward and outward, this is the one context we are sure of, and one context we can work with. This is Adiyogi's most significant contribution to humankind, and it is a profound and enduring one. The only way out is in. Once it happened. Someone came looking for the Isha Yoga Center in southern India. They came to a nearby village and asked a local boy, "How far is the Isha Yoga Center?" The boy scratched his head and said, 24,996 miles. The man was aghast. "What, that far?" The boy said, "Yes, the way you're going, but if you turn around, it's just 4 miles. If you go outward, it is an endless journey. If you turn inward, it is just one moment. In that one moment, everything changes. In that one moment, you are not in pursuit of joy anymore. Instead, your life becomes an expression of your joyfulness." Design your destiny. I was once at an international conference on how to alleviate poverty on the planet. There were several eminent participants in positions of public responsibility, including a generous sprinkling of Nobel laureates. At one point, a participant said, "Why are we trying to solve these problems? Isn't all this divine will?" And I said, "Yes, if somebody else is dying, somebody else is hungry, it must be divine will. But if your stomach is empty, if your child is dying of hunger, you will have your own plan, won't you?" Whenever we have had to do something about our lives, we have taken it into our hands. Whenever it comes to other people's misfortunes, we have a word to explain it: destiny. And what a convenient word that is! Destiny has become a popular scapegoat, a way to deal with failure, a fatalistic ruse to reconcile ourselves to all kinds of uncomfortable situations. But turning inward is the first step from passivity to agency, from being a victim toward becoming a master of your own destiny. A variety of diseases that people believed to be God's will until 100 years ago are in our hands today. This is because we have taken charge of certain situations. Polio is an example. The very word polio would strike terror in the hearts of many in recent history. When I was growing up, I saw quite a few polio-afflicted people about my age in school and in my neighborhood, who were doomed to live out their lives in wheelchairs. It was a common sight, and it was an acknowledged fact that they would never be able to walk in their lives. Their affliction was usually seen as an act of God or destiny. At the start of the 20th century, polio was the most feared ailment in industrialized countries, irreversibly paralyzing thousands of children. Effective vaccines helped practically eliminate this disease in the 1950s and 60s. When it was recognized as a major problem in developing countries, immunization programs were introduced. In 1988, polio afflicted 350,000 children around the world in a single year. In 2013, the number had dropped to 416. By 2012, India was no longer on the list of polio-endemic countries. A combination of political advocacy, public and private partnerships, effective, reasonably priced vaccines, community participation, and teams of global healthcare workers proved that despite all the obstacles, even in a country as vast and challenging as India, eradication was possible. To be human means you can mold situations you are living in the way you want them. But today most people in the world are molded by the situations in which they exist. This is simply because they live in reaction to situations they are placed in. The inevitable question is, why was I placed in such a situation? Isn't it my destiny? Whatever we do not want to take responsibility for, whatever we cannot make sense of logically, we label destiny. It is a consoling word, but disempowering. Until that moment, in my experience, my body and mind was me, and the world was out there. But suddenly, I did not know what was me and what was not me. My eyes were still open, but the air that I was breathing, the rock on which I was sitting, the very atmosphere around me, everything had become me. I was everything that was. I was conscious, but I had lost my senses. The discriminatory nature of the senses simply did not exist anymore. The more I say, the crazier it will sound, because what was happening was indescribable. What was me was literally everywhere. Everything was exploding beyond defined boundaries. Everything was exploding into everything else. It was a dimensionless unity of absolute perfection. My life is just that moment, gracefully enduring. When I returned to my normal senses, it felt as if just 10 minutes had elapsed. But a glance at my watch told me that it was 7:30 in the evening. 4.5 hours had passed. My eyes were open. The sun had set. It was dark. I was fully aware, but what I had considered to be myself until that moment had completely disappeared. I have never been the teary kind, and yet here I was, at the age of 25, on a rock upon Chamundi Hill, so ecstatically crazy that the tears were flowing and my entire shirt was wet. Being peaceful and happy had never been an issue for me. I had lived my life the way I wanted. I had grown up in the 60s, the era of Beatles and blue jeans, read my share of European philosophy and literature, Dostoevsky, Camus, Kafka, and the like. But here I was, exploding into a completely different dimension of existence, of which I knew nothing, drenched in a completely new feeling, an exuberance, a blissfulness that I had never known or imagined possible. When I applied my skeptical mind to this, the only thing my mind could tell me was that maybe I was going off my rocker. Still, it was so beautiful that I knew that I didn't want to lose it. I have never quite been able to describe what happened that afternoon. Perhaps the best way to put it is that I went up and did not come down. I never have. I was born in Mysore, a pretty princely town in southern India, an erstwhile capital known for its palaces and gardens. My father was a physician, my mother a homemaker. I was the youngest of 4 siblings. School bored me. I found sitting through class impossible because I could see that the teachers were talking about something that did not mean anything to their lives. Every day, as a 4-year-old, I instructed my housekeeper, who accompanied me to school in the morning, to drop me off at the gates and not enter the building. As soon as she left, I would dart to the nearby canyon, which exploded with an incredible variety of life. I started accumulating a vast personal zoo of insects, tadpoles and snakes in bottles, obtained from my father's medicine cabinet. After a few months, when my parents discovered that I hadn't been attending school, however, they seemed singularly unimpressed by my biological explorations. My expeditions to the canyon were dismissed as messing about in a rainwater drain. Thwarted as I often was by what I regarded as a dull, unimaginative adult world, I simply turned my attention elsewhere and found something else to do. In later years, I preferred to spend my days roaming the forest, catching snakes, fishing, trekking, and climbing trees. If we had no problem with biology, we would not make distinction between who is who. Everybody would be known for what they are worth. Whether somebody is male or female would be irrelevant. The whole exploitation of women starts once you cannot accept the fundamental differences between a man and a woman. You do not have to make biology sacred, nor do you have to make it filthy. It is an instrument of life. Because of it, you exist. If you know how to live it without elevating it or making it ugly, it has a beauty of its own. The sensuousness that you experience in life is a chemical invitation for something that is not you to become a part of you. This is nature's way of instigating you toward a union or yoga. Though sensuousness is celebratory in its nature, it is discriminatory too. When two individuals are in a passionate meeting, the rest of the world is excluded or even obliterated. If the celebration has to last, your sensuousness or your passion has to become all-inclusive. If you are in a state of all-inclusive passion, we call this yoga. So denial is not the answer, expansion is the only answer. And if you have not known the sensuousness of the life-giving breath that is on every moment of your life, how can you even begin to know any other kind? Experiencing the orgasmic nature of the breathing process is called Anapanasati Yoga, the yoga of incoming and outgoing breath. Anapana literally means in and out. Sati means female consort. So the reference here is clearly to orgasmic union. And so, Anapanasati Yoga is a process that initiates you into a conscious and profound involvement with your breath and shows you how the simple incoming and outgoing breath can become a source of nameless ecstasies. Sadhana. The higher possibilities of life are housed in the human body. The physical body is a platform for all possibilities from the gross to the sacred. You can perform simple acts of eating, sleeping, and sex as acts of grossness, or you can bring a certain dimension of sanctity to all these aspects. This sanctity can be achieved by bringing subtler thought, emotion, and intention into these acts. Above all, remember the grossness and sanctity of something is largely decided by your unwillingness and unconsciousness, or your willingness and consciousness. Every breath, every step, every simple act, thought, and emotion can acquire the stance of the sacred if conducted recognizing the sanctity of the other involved, whether a person or a foodstuff or an object that you use. Of all the loving acts that two human beings are capable of, the simple act of holding hands can often become the most intimate. Why is this so? Basically, because the nature of the hands and feet is such, the energy system finds expression in these two parts of the body in a very singular way. Two palms coming together have far more intimacy than the contact between any other parts of the body. You can try this with yourself. You don't even need a partner. When you put your hands together, the two energy dimensions within you, right, left, masculine, feminine, solar, lunar, yin, yang, Shiva, Shakti, are linked in a certain way, and you begin to experience a sense of unity within yourself. This is the logic of the traditional Indian Namaskar. It is a means of harmonizing the system. So the simplest way to experience a state of union is to try this simple Namaskar yoga. The rain started lashing from every direction. There was no other place to go, so they moved closer and closer. Finally, there was no alternative. They just sat down and embraced the idol. The moment these four people hugged the idol, suddenly God appeared. In all their minds, the same question arose, why now? They wondered. We expounded so many subtle and arcane philosophies, worshipped at every possible sacred shrine, great and small, selflessly served so many people, did so much body-breaking penance, but you never showed up. Now when we are just escaping the rain, you turn up. Why? God said, at last you four idiots got together. Yoga is, quite simply, the science of bringing the four idiots together. Right now, for most people, these four dimensions are aligned in different directions. Your mind is thinking one way and left nostrils. It is dominant in the right nostril for a length of time and then in the left. Become aware of this, so you know at least something about you is changing. This awareness can be further enhanced into awareness of the solar and lunar influences upon the body. If you bring your physical system in sync with the lunar and solar cycles, your physical and psychological health is guaranteed. The energy labyrinth. The yogic system offers us a comprehensive and elaborate view of the anatomy of the human energy body. It has mapped 72,000 channels, or nadis as they are called, in the energy system. The prana, or energy, moves through these channels. These 72,000 channels spring, in turn, from three basic channels. The channel on the right is known as Pingala, the left is known as Ida, the central is known as Sushumna. These three channels are the basis of the energy system. Pingala is symbolized as the masculine, Ida is symbolized as the feminine. Masculine and feminine do not refer here to biological differences, but to certain qualities in nature that have been identified as such. These qualities are represented by these two channels. If a person's Pingala is very pronounced, then the outgoing exploratory qualities will be dominant. If the Ida is more pronounced, receptive and reflective qualities will be dominant. Whether one is a man or a woman has nothing to do with this. You may be a man, but the Ida may be more dominant. You may be a woman, but the Pingala may be more dominant. The Pingala and Ida are also symbolized as the sun and the moon. The sun representing the masculine, the moon representing the feminine. The sun is aggressive and outgoing. The moon receives and reflects. The cycles of the moon are deeply connected with the female body as well. On the level of your mind, Pingala represents the logical dimension, Ida represents the intuitive dimension. These two dualities are the fundamentals of the physical sphere of life. A human being is complete only when both the masculine and the feminine function at full force and are in proper balance. Sushumna, The central nadi is the most significant aspect of your physiology, yet it generally goes unexplored. It is independent of the 72,000 nadis, but it is the fulcrum of the whole system. Once the energies enter your Sushumna, irrespective of what is happening around you, you have a certain balance. Right now you may be reasonably balanced, but if the outside situation is challenging, you will also be disturbed. Once energies enter the Sushumna, however, your inner way of being becomes independent of the outside, because it is independent of the 72,000 nadis. There is a great deal of chakra talk nowadays. Chakra means wheel and has a very specific meaning and significance in the yogic system. These days, there are wheel alignment centers that claim to balance your chakras, clear your blocks, and heal your ailments, past, present and future. Lots of people are doing chakras these days. It has become a huge fad, but it can be dangerous. It is time to approach this very subtle subject with care and precision. The nadis do not have a physical manifestation. If you cut the body and look inside, you will not find them. But as you become more aware, you will notice the energy is not moving at random but in established pathways. The chakras are powerful centers in the physiology where the nadis meet in a particular way to create an energy vortex. Like the nadis, the chakras are of a subtle nature and do not have a physical existence. They always meet in the form of a triangle, not a circle as the word chakra suggests. The moving part in a machine is always a circle, because circle is capable of movement with least resistance. These energy centers are so named because the wheel suggests movement or dynamism. There are 114 chakras in the body. 2 are outside the body and 112 within the body. Among these 112, there are 7 major chakras. For most people, 3 of these are active. The remaining are either dormant or mildly active. You do not have to activate all the 114 chakras to live a physical life. You can live quite a complete life with just a few of them. If you were active in all the 114 chakras, you would have no sense of body at all. The purpose of yoga is to activate your energy system in such a way that your body consciousness is constantly being lowered. So you can sit here in the body, but you are no longer the body. In southern India, there was a legendary yogi named Sadhguru Brahmendra. He was a Nirkaya, which literally means bodiless yogi. He had no sense of body. Wearing clothes does not even occur to a person in such a state. He just walked around naked. Also, in such a condition, there is no sense of home, property or physical boundary. One day, he happened to walk into the king's garden on the banks of river Kaveri. The king was sitting there, relaxing with his queens. Sadhguru Brahmendra wandered into the garden, unaware of his own nakedness. The king was furious. Who is this fool that dares to walk naked in front of my woman? He sent his soldiers after him. The soldiers ran behind Sadhguru Brahmendra, calling out to him. He did not turn back, he continued to walk. Angered, one of the soldiers took out his sword and struck him. Severing his right arm, Sadhguru Brahmendra did not even break his stride, he continued walking. Seeing this, the soldiers were wonderstruck and terrified. They realized that this was no ordinary man. The king and his soldiers ran after him, prostrated, begged his forgiveness, and brought him back to the garden. He lived in that garden for the rest of his life and finally shed his body there. There are innumerable instances like this in the yogic tradition. When your energies are in a heightened condition, the sense of the physical is so diminished that it is even possible to go without any external nourishment for days on end. What exactly is the role of chakras within the system? There are 7 fundamental chakras: the Mooladhara, which is located at the perineum, the space between the anal outlet and the genital organ; Swadhisthana, which is just above the genital organ; Manipuraka, which is 3/4 of an inch below the navel; Anahata, which is just below the sternum; Vishuddhi is at the pit of the throat; Agna, which is between the eyebrows; and Sahasrara, also known as Brahmarandra, which is at the fontanelle on top of the head, where the newborn infants have a soft spot. Restfulness essentially defines the replenishing and rejuvenating capability of the body. You cannot slow down your system at the cost of activity. What is necessary is to keep your system in such a way that activity does not take its toll upon it. Maybe physically you get exhausted, but it need not stress you in any way. If you are capable of being vibrantly active and still relaxed, then it is worthwhile. If you start certain simple practices of yoga, in 3 to 4 months' time, your pulse rate will drop at least 8 to 20 counts very easily. That means the body is running so much more efficiently and at a relaxed pace. What the body needs is not sleep, but restfulness. If you keep the body very relaxed through the day, your sleep quota will go down naturally. If your work and taking a walk or exercising are also relaxation for you, your sleep quota will drop even further. Right now, people want to do everything the hard way. I see people walking in the park in a state of tension. Whether you walk or jog, why can't it be done easily, joyfully? This exercise may be causing more harm to you than well-being because you are going at it as if you are going into a battle. Don't battle with life. You are not anti-life. You are life. Just get in tune with it. You will see that you will pass through it easily. Keeping yourself fit and well is not a battle. Do some activity that you enjoy, play a game, swim, walk, run. If you don't like to do anything except eat cheesecake all day, then you have a problem. Otherwise, there is no incompatibility between being active and relaxed at the same time. How much sleep does your body need? It depends on the level of physical activity you are engaged in. There is no need to fix the quota of either food or sleep. To program the calories you must consume and the number of hours you must sleep is a foolish way to handle life. Let the body decide how much it should eat today, not you. Today, your activity levels are low, so you eat less. Tomorrow, your activity is high, so you eat more. Similarly, with sleep, when you feel sufficiently relaxed, you come awake. The moment the body is rested, it will wake up, whether it be at 3 or 4 or 8 o'clock. When it comes to food and sleep, your body is the best judge. If the body is at a certain level of alertness and awareness, you will see that once it is well rested, it will awaken. That is, if it is eager to come to life. If it is somehow trying to use the bed as a grave, then it is a problem. Keep the body in such a way that it is not longing to avoid or escape life. Maintain it in such a way that it is longing to come awake. Sadhana. If you sleep without a pillow or with a very low pillow which does not allow the spine to get pinched, the neurological regeneration of the brain and the cellular regeneration of the neurological system will be much better. If you sleep without a pillow, it is best to lie on your back in a supine position rather than on your side. Lying in this position is referred to in yoga as shavasana. It enhances the purification and rejuvenation of the body, promotes the free flow of movement in energy system, bringing relaxation and vitality. But there is no reason to get dogmatic about this. At least in your sleep, don't take a position. Carnal to cosmic. Existence is a dance between the unmanifest and the manifest. The moment there is a manifestation, there is duality. Light and darkness, male and female, birth and death, and so on. Though unity is the basic fabric of creation, duality brings texture, design and color to life. All the various manifestations that you see as life today are fundamentally rooted in duality. Because there are two, there are many. If there were only one, there would be no existence. Once there are two, the game of life begins. Once duality begins, sex begins. What we call as sex is just two parts of this duality striving to become one. In the process of these dualities meeting, there are also certain functions that nature wants to fulfill, like procreation and the survival of the species. All duality is striving for unity because what was once one has manifested itself as two. Now there is a perpetual longing to become one. This longing to become one finds expression in many ways. When you are young and your intelligence is hijacked by your hormones, sex will be the way. When you are middle-aged and your intelligence is hijacked by your emotions, love is the way. When you are old and you're bereft of hormonal mischief, prayer is the way. But irrespective of age, when you transcend all this and seek the same union in much higher level of awareness, then yoga is the way. If you are seeking oneness with the body, you need to remember that physical bodies will always remain two, no matter what you do. For a few moments, a sense of unity will happen and then people fall apart. If divorce does not do it, death will. It is bound to happen. Sex is just two opposites making an attempt to become one. Your individuality means not only false boundaries that you have set up in your mental framework in the form of your preferences and dislikes, tastes and opinions. It also means you're trapped within the boundaries of your own physical body. You may not be consciously aware, but the life within you is longing to break these boundaries. When you want to break your mental boundaries, you may long to have a serious conversation, or read a book, drink alcohol, take a drug, or do something freaky. To break physical boundaries, you may want to pierce yourself, get a tattoo, dye your hair, or go the old-fashioned way of sex. The intention of sex is great, but the method is hopeless. Pleasure is involved, so it drives two people toward each other, but oneness comes only momentarily. So you try to meet in other areas of emotion and intellect. People are always trying to find common ground. We like the same ice cream, both of us are blonde, both of us play video games, share the same zodiac sign, and like the same TV shows. But unless you understand that you can never become one, you will not learn to enjoy the opposite. These two energies, which in the human race we call masculine and feminine, are always trying to come together. At the same time, except for this longing to be together, they are opposites. They are lovers and enemies at the same time. If they look for similarities, there seems to be little common ground, but the attraction of the opposite is always there. A lot of people cannot face the basic physical act as it is, so they have invented all kinds of decorations around it to make it beautiful. You always add emotion to it, because without emotion, it would seem ugly. In some way, you're trying to cloud your vision of reality with lots of decorations. Sex is natural. It is there in the body. Sexuality is something you invented. It is psychological. If sex is in the body, it is fine, it is beautiful. The moment it enters your mind, it becomes a perversion. It has no business with your mind. Sex is a small aspect of you, but today it has become huge. For many, it has become life itself. If you look at modern societies, you would say probably 90% of human energy is being spent either pursuing or avoiding sex. Sex is just nature's trick to reproduce. If this attraction of opposites did not exist, the species would become extinct. But now we have made such a distinction between man and woman, almost as if they are two separate species. He welcomed him, set him up in the palace, treated him like a king. The man was not accustomed to the ways of the court and committed many stupid blunders. But the generous Akbar kept saying, "He is my elder brother. We have drunk the milk from the same mother." He introduced him to everybody as his elder brother. This was the state of affairs for some time. Then it was time for the man to return to his village. Akbar said, "My brother, you lost those villages given to you. I shall give you 5 new villages to rule, a small kingdom of your own." The man said, "But I see that you have become this successful because there are a lot of smart people around you. I don't have anybody to advise me. That is why I am lost. If only I had good advisors and ministers, I would also have built a major empire. Above all, you have Birbal. He is so smart. If only I had somebody like him, I would also be a great emperor." Akbar said, "If you wish, you may take Birbal with you." He summoned Birbal and ordered him, "You must go with my elder brother." Birbal said, "Your Highness, your elder brother deserves someone better than me. Why not my elder brother? I could send him instead." Akbar thought that that was a great idea because he did not relish the prospect of losing Birbal. Delighted, he said, "Summon him immediately." The next day this man was to leave for his new kingdom, and a grand farewell was organized in court. There was a mood of anticipation in the air, as everyone waited for Birbal to arrive with his elder brother. Finally Birbal entered with a bull in tow. "What is this?" Akbar asked. Birbal said, "This is my elder brother." Akbar was furious. "Are you trying to insult me and my brother?" "No, my lord," said Birbal. "He is my elder brother. Both of us drank milk from the same mother." Once your intellect or buddhi, as it is termed in yogic taxonomy, gets identified with something, you function within the realm of this identity. Whatever you are identified with, all your thoughts and emotions spring from that identity. Right now, suppose you identify yourself as a man, all your thoughts and emotions flow from that identification. If you identify yourself with your nationality or religion, they will flow from those identifications. Whatever your thoughts and emotions, these identifications are a certain level of prejudice. In fact, your mind is itself a certain kind of prejudice. Why? Because it functions from limited data and is fronted by an essentially discriminatory intellect. So your mind, which should have been a ladder to the divine, is tumbling through endless mediocrity and on some occasions has become a straight stairway to hell. The identity around which the intellect functions is called ahankara. To continue with the earlier knife analogy, the hand that wields the knife is identity. Or in other words, it is your identity that manages and determines your intellect. When you use a knife, it is important not just to have a sharp blade, but a stable hand to hold it. Without a stable hand, you can end up cutting yourself in a million different ways. Most of the suffering that human beings undergo is not because of external situations. What is inflicted on them from outside is minimal, the rest is all self-help. Once you're identified with something that you are not, the mind is an express train that cannot be stopped. If you put the mind on full steam and want to apply the brakes, it will not work. But if you are able to disentangle yourself from everything that you are not, if you disidentify, as it were, you will see that the mind turns blank and empty. When you want to use it, you can. At other times, it will simply be empty, devoid of all psychological clutter. That is how it should be. Right now, you are identified with so many labels. At the same time, you're trying to stop your mind. This will simply not work. Irrespective of what you think you are, when death confronts you, every identification falls away. If human beings learn to drop these voluntarily, life would be blissful. Today, in attempting to fetishize the body, people are creating untold suffering. You cannot think of a better arrangement materially in terms of healthcare, insurance, cars. You have more comforts and conveniences than any previous generation, but people are suffering immensely. In affluent societies, almost every fifth person is on some kind of medication just to maintain mental balance. When you have to take a tablet every day to remain sane, this is not joyfulness. You are on the verge of breaking down because you have made a small aspect of your life the whole of your life. Mortality and profundity. Only when you recognize your mortal nature do you want to know what more there is to life. It is then that spiritual process opens up. Once it happened, two men over 80 years of age met. One recognized the other and said, "Did you fight in World War II?" The other man said, "Yes." The first asked him where and in which battalion. The other man told him. The first exclaimed, "Oh my God, don't you recognize me? We were in the same foxhole." Oh, they hit it off. They talked and talked. All that they had actually seen was about 40 minutes of intense combat situation, but they talked about every bullet that went by, zing zing, just missing them by inches. They spoke for over 4 hours about those 40 minutes. When they had exhausted everything that they could say about that time, one asked the other, "What have you been doing since the war?" "Oh, for the past 60 years, I've just been a salesman." Those 40 minutes had come to define their lives because their mortality was dangling in front of them at every moment. In battle, they had forged a bond that was profound. Beyond that, this man's life could be summed up in a single sentence: he was just a salesman. You discover an indescribable profundity within yourself when you realize your mortal nature. If you have not realized your eternal nature, you must at least realize your mortal nature. Death is not the end of life, death is simply the end of the body. If you have lived with a very deep identification with the physical, the more you will struggle with death, because death marks the end of the body. Only when you confront your mortality, the potential but inevitable termination of your physical form, does the longing to go beyond become genuine. Mind, miracle or mess? Once it happened, a man wished to acquire supernatural powers. He went from one guru to another, desperately in search of instruction. He eventually found his way to a remote hermitage in the Himalayan wilderness. The guru of the ashram divined the purpose of his quest and tried to dissuade him. What will you do with these powers? So what if you learn to walk upon water? After 3 days, a boat will be better. Don't waste your life on these irrelevant pursuits. Let me teach you meditation instead. The master made many attempts to dissuade him, but the man was adamant. The Guru finally said, "Well, if you're determined, take a dip in the river tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock and come to me. I will initiate you into the secrets of the supernatural." The man was excited. He took a pre-dawn dip in a freezing Himalayan river, turned half blue, and came and sat expectantly before the master. The Guru said, "See, this is very simple. I have a secret mantra. If you utter it 3 times over, for the next 40 days, all the supernatural powers will be yours." He then revealed the mantra, "Asatoma Sadgamaya." From ignorance, lead me to truth. The Guru said, "You have to repeat this sacred mantra 3 times a day for the next 40 days, and the entire realm of the supernatural will be yours." The first recorded use of the method we now call Zen happened almost 8,000 years ago, well before the time of Gautama the Buddha. King Janaka was a brilliant man, an ardent seeker, burning with the longing to know. He had exhausted all spiritual teachers in the kingdom. None of them could help him because they were all born out of the book. He had still to meet someone who came from inner experience. One day the king went on a hunting trip. Riding deep into the jungle, he caught sight of a yogi. He stopped. Seated outside a small hermitage was Ashtavakra, one of the most accomplished yogis and spiritual masters of all time. Janaka prepared to get off the horse to greet him. He swung his leg over the saddle and was about to dismount when Ashtavakra said, "Stop." So Janaka stopped right there, one leg still in the stirrup and the other mid-air. It was a painful position to be in, but Janaka stayed frozen, staring at Ashtavakra. We don't know how long the Guru held him that way, but suddenly, in that awkward state, Janaka became fully enlightened. The method employed by Ashtavakra was akin to what is generally known in the world as Zen today. Once it happened, there was a Zen master whom everyone respected, but who had no teaching to impart. He always carried a huge sack on his shoulders. This would contain many items, and some of it would be sweets. In every town and village that he visited, children would gather around him and he would distribute sweets and leave. People asked for teachings, but he would just laugh and go on his way. One day, a man who was himself known to be a Zen master of great repute came to meet him. He wanted to ascertain whether this man with a sack was really Zen or not. So he asked him, "What is Zen?" Immediately, the man dropped the sack and stood straight. Then he asked, "What is the goal of Zen?" The man picked up the sack, slung it over his shoulders and walked away. This is yoga too. This is what every spiritual practice is about. When you want to attain yoga or Zen, you have to drop your load, discard everything on the way, remain free, stand upright. It is important. With your load, you may never do it. And what is the goal of yoga? Consciously take on the whole load once again. Now, it no longer feels like a load. The sacred science. What does it mean to sanctify or consecrate a space? The word consecration is often used somewhat loosely. For most people, it denotes a series of rituals that offers at best, beauty and poetry of our lives, but performs no real useful function. Most believe it is mere mumbo-jumbo meant to obfuscate the spiritual process and exploit a fearful and gullible majority. It is time to discard this superficial understanding and look deeper. If you transform mud into food, we call this agriculture. If you make food into flesh and bone, we call this digestion. If you make flesh into mud, we call this cremation. If you make this flesh or even a stone or empty space into a higher possibility, this is consecration. Consecration is a live process. The Sanskrit word for it is pratishta. As we have discussed earlier, modern science today tells us that everything is the same energy manifesting itself in a million different ways. If that is so, what you call the divine, what you call a stone, what you call a man or a woman or a demon are all the same energy functioning in different ways. If you have the necessary technology, you can make the simple space around you into a divine exuberance. You can just take a piece of rock and make it into a god or a goddess. This is the phenomena of consecration. Modern science tells us that all of existence is just energy manifesting itself in different ways and in different forms. This means that the same energy that can sit here as a rock, can lie there as mud, can stand up as a tree, can run like a dog, or be here reading this book as you. So you're essentially a morsel of energy that is part of a much larger energy system of the universe. The cosmos is just one big organism. Your life is not independent of it. You cannot live without the world because there is a very deep moment-to-moment transaction between the two of you. Although everything in the universe is the same energy, it functions at different levels of capability in different forms. The same energy functions in one plant to create roses, in another plant it functions to create jasmine. With the same material with which people made earthen pots, we now make computers, cars and even spacecrafts. It is the same material. We have just started using it for higher and higher possibilities. Essentially, natural evolution is a similar phenomena. From the same material of this planet, what an incredible journey has been made from an amoeba to a human being. It is the same with our inner energies. Yoga is the technology of upgrading, activating and refining these inner energies for the highest possibilities. Suddenly your capabilities reach a level of brilliance that you never imagined possible. An accidental and limited life turns near miraculous. But yoga performs an even deeper function than ensuring well-being at body, mind and energy levels. Literally, yoga means union. When you are in yoga, it means that in your experience, everything has become one. This is the essence of the science. This is also its deepest aim. What is this union? What unites with what? Right now you're aware of someone called me and someone called the other. This me and other can be extended to groups of people, communities and nations, but fundamentally, me and other is the basis of conflict in the universe. The whole point of yoga is to bring you to an experience wherein, if you sit here, there is no such thing as you and me. It is all me or all you. Any process that helps you to reach this union is yoga. How can union be achieved? There are several ways, but let us start at the beginning. With our ideas of what constitutes an individual, if I were to start telling you things you did not know, you would have a choice to believe or disbelieve me. Either way, you have only concretized your assumptions, whether positive or negative. This will only take you into flights of fanciful imagination. But the whole process of yoga is to take you step by step and stage by stage from the known into the unknown. It is 100% empirical science. It does not ask you to take anything on trust. It urges you to experiment every step of the way. So, let us look at what exactly you understand by the word myself. Right now, in your understanding, this you is constituted by your body, your mind, which includes your thoughts and emotions, and your energies. Your energies may not be in your experience currently, but you know them by inference. If your body and mind function as they do, there must be some kind of energy empowering them. These three realities, body, mind, energy, are what you know. They are also what you can work with. Yoga tells us that we are actually composed of 5 sheets or layers, or simply bodies. As there is a medical physiology, there is a yogic one as well. It leads us from gross to subtle levels of reality. Do you have to believe in it? No, but it is a useful place at which to start our exploration. Your fundamental area of work, however, is only with the realities that you're aware of. The first sheath or layer to which yoga draws your attention is the physical body, the Annamaya Kosha, or more literally, the food body.